Hello, let's try that again. Hello, good morning, good afternoon even, good afternoon, and welcome to Kids Club at Home. I hope you're all okay today and I hope you've had a good week. Can you remember what we talked about last week? We saw some videos of the week before, but the lesson last week was about the seeds that grew up in the field. Now, some of you sent me in some pictures of the seeds that you found. So let's start off by taking a look at those pictures. Got one picture here of some tiny seeds. Some are a little bit flatter, but some even look like little tiny sunflower seeds. And then we've got another picture here. All sorts of different sorts of seeds. Does the one in the middle look like a big nut? Maybe. And then there's some little tiny, maybe sunflower seeds or pumpkin seeds again. It's amazing what you can find in your house, isn't it? So this week's Kids Club is, well, the clue for the story is that it's about a dad. So before we watch the video, I want you to go and see if you can find something that reminds me of your dad, or if you don't want to do your dad, maybe of your grandpa or of an uncle. So what do they like doing? What reminds you of them? Ready, steady. Can I find it? Oh, I've got to bring it to the front. Hang on, hold on a minute. Things are never in the right place, are they? Right, we are going to start that again. So, can I even start that again? Yes, we're going to get rid of it. So thinking of something that reminds you of your dad. Go. We got there eventually, didn't we? So I have some things that might remind my kids of their dad. And we'll have a look in a minute when you all get back. This is the point that everyone's running really quickly around the house. You can always pause it if the kids need just a little bit longer to get back. 3, 2, 1. Excellent. So, what did you find? What did you find? Things I found a superhero cape, because I think my kid's dad really likes watching films about superheroes. I found this isn't actually a guitar, this is a small ukulele, because he quite likes his guitar and he quite likes music. Also, on the music theme, I found his headphones, because he definitely enjoys listening to music. What did you find? Keep hold of it for our awkward selfie a little bit later, but for now we are going to go straight into our video. Oh, got the timer going again. Don't want the timer. So that was another parable that Jesus told. You might have heard it told in a slightly different way before. Often it's called the parable of the prodigal son, which means the lost son. So in that story, it started off with the son not wanting to stay with the rest of his family anymore, did he? And I have a couple of questions for you as we think about the story. So the son didn't want to be part of his family, did he? He wanted to go off and find maybe fame for being a really strong man. Maybe he wanted to make more money. How do you think that his dad felt when he left? Do you think he was sad? Do you think he was disappointed? The son hadn't been very nice to his dad, though, had he? He hadn't been very respectful. I wonder if the dad was aware that his son needed to do some learning, that he needed to grow as a character. Nevertheless, the son went off, didn't he? And he did what he wanted. And for a while, it seemed good. He seemed to have friends. He seemed to have money to spend as he wanted. But then it all started going wrong, didn't it? And he got weaker. And he had to pretend to be a strong man at a children's party. And do you think he thought to himself, this is no sort of life. I could be back home with my dad. I could be back part of the family business. I think it must have been quite a difficult decision to decide to go back, because he didn't know what his dad was thinking about him. He didn't know whether his dad would be pleased if he came back or not. What do you think made the son decide to go home? Yeah, I think he must have been feeling quite desperate. I think he must have been feeling quite like there was no other option to him. And I think he finally had to become humble. And saying sorry, or being prepared to say sorry, is part of being humble. I think at the beginning of the story, he felt like he was right all of the time. But at the end of the story, he had to be prepared to go back to his dad and say sorry. So this is another parable of Jesus. And this parable tells us about God's character. Because in this story, the dad is like God. So we learn some things from the way the dad behaves about the character of God. Now, the dad didn't say to the son that he couldn't leave. And I think this is teaching us that we can always make our own choices. God doesn't tell us exactly what to do, and he doesn't make us always do the right thing. So we have that freedom, and he lets us go and make our choices. But then the other really important thing I think we learn about God in this parable is, like the dad, God is always ready and waiting for us to come back to him. He's not just maybe slightly hoping that we might come back to him. He's there, and he's got a party laid out for us. He is ready to celebrate us turning back to him. And I think that gives us a lot of hope. Even when we feel like we've done naughty things, even when we feel that we're not very lovable or not very kind or not very nice, God is still there, and he is still going to celebrate us coming back to him. So you can find this story in your Bible. Oh, we've got all the orders wrong today. Let's send that one to the front as well. So you can find this story in your Bible in Luke chapter 15. And right at the end of this, in Luke chapter 15, he says to the other son, because the other son was a bit grumpy that the prodigal son, the lost son, had come back. He said, "Why are you throwing a party?" And the father says to the other son, he says, "Son, You are always with me, and all that I have is yours. So you know the son who went off and spent all the money? He doesn't get that money back. He still has to live with the consequences. But then the father goes on to say, it is fitting to celebrate and be glad, because this your brother was dead, and now he is alive. He was lost and he is found. And I think that is how God can feel about us too. So if you want to read the story for yourselves, you can have a look in your Bible, maybe with your parents, at Luke chapter 15, and it's towards the end. So now we are going to we're going to have a chat about activities you could do, take an awkward selfie, and finish with a song. So for this week, we've been thinking about dads. And do you know what the day tomorrow is? I hope you do, because tomorrow is Father's Day in the UK. So I would like you to think about how you could make it special for your dad. What things could you make it into a proper celebration? Would he like some food? Maybe you could decorate some party plates. Does he like balloons? Would you like breakfast in bed? What sort of things could you do to make it into a celebration tomorrow? If maybe you can't be with your dad, or you haven't got a dad to celebrate with, you could always think about this for your uncle or for a granddad. And the other thing we know dads like are dad jokes. So whether or not you're with your dad tomorrow, you could think of some jokes and share them to them. So I've got one good dad joke to start you off. What would your dad say is the best way to count cows? What do you think? What's the best way? What would your dad say is the best way to count cows? With a calculator! Can you do better than that? What did your dad think of that joke? If you have some good dad jokes, send them in and I'll read them out last week, or send me the joke that your dad liked the best. Right, now it is time for an awkward selfie. So I'm going to pick up my dad's stuff. Let's get the selfie to the front again. Brilliant. So I'm going to put on my dad super cape. Might take some getting ready, this. Way. Dad's super cape. On the hair. Brilliant. So I've got my superhero dad. I've got my musical instrument. I might just have to put this down a little bit so I can get into the frame. That's better. Oh, another thing dads like, but you don't want to play with these at home really. Some dads like making fires outside, so I've got a lighter as well. So 1, 2, 3, cheese for the really awkward selfie. Brilliant. I look forward to seeing what sort of things you found that remind you of your dads. So we're going to finish with a song now, and I'll see you all next week. Bye.
Jesus said, I am the light of the world. Jesus said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life, the light of life, the light of life, the light of life. John 8:1, John 8:1, 2, John 8:12. Jesus said, I am the light of the world. Jesus said, I am the